Hi, Jose.
Hey, hey, Leo, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. Thanks so much for being a part of this project. This piece is super interesting, and I have a bunch of questions. So,
Okay.
if you don't mind, if we could just dig into some of the nuts and bolts of your beautiful notation here.
Okay. No, thank you. Thank you so much. Of course.
And if anybody's going to be watching, maybe I'll put the score up on the screen later for them.
Okay, that's fine. That's perfectly fine.
So, I have two. I have the score you sent me in front of me, and I also have the first couple of pages that you included with program notes.
Yes.
Excuse me, performance notes.
Mhm.
Do you have both in front of you also for?
I have, let me open because I send you two, not two versions, but I send you just the first sketch, right? A few months ago with just a few pages. And then I send you a more complete version of the score.
We
Let
can
me
work.
just, but yeah, I mean, even if I don't have the performance instructions in front of me, I think I can remember what the signs mean.
Well, so I'm sure you can. I'm sure. But okay, so your graphic notation has five sort of staves in a sense going across the page.
Yes.
Um, the center of the space seems it's graphically indicating pitch.
Well, can you say that again? So the center of the space is
The center of the space indicates pitch more or less. High pitch.
yes, yes. So the middle is your middle register, right? It goes up, you go high. It goes down, you go lower. Basically, it's very simple. And I should say, Leo, that some of the lines, even the vertical lines and the horizontal lines, right now, since this is just a manuscript, although it's very close to its final version, maybe the final version won't have those lines.
Okay.
So they're working more, first of all, as a reference to me to have much more control of every single parameter, and maybe to you too to put it together. But it doesn't mean that the last or the final version of the piece is going to have as many lines as now. They're mostly references, unless you think I should keep them, then we can talk about it, and I can leave the score the way it is.
Yeah.
It also depends on how you feel things need to be said, or which things we need to change. But I'm pretty open to that too. But just so you know, right now they're just references.
Okay. That's good to know. I mean, I would say my first instinct would be that as we get into working on the piece, you should make that call based on, in a sense, like how I play it. Sometimes
Right.
we want to imagine taking bar lines. Once we're playing all the notes in the right place, we want to imagine the verticality of it. Sometimes we need it for beats, and sometimes we want
Yes.
feeling for.
Yes. See, as you can see, for instance, there are places, talking about the verticalities. I mean, there are places where actually I do, mark again the line. For instance, the first page, on the second half, mostly where there is a little bit more of activity,
Huh?
and when I don't want you to, what is it, to take too much time or to make things longer, when I want things to rush a little bit more, then I mark the pulses.
Thank you.
But if the gesture is more, it's, what is it, it's an extension of a first attack, or if it's some sort of reverberation of something else, then I leave it a little bit more open, until you feel is right. Of course, always taking into account the context and the proportion of the gestures.
So from a performer's perspective, some of the more open sections will have to do with just reading the way the sound develops in the moment.
Exactly, exactly. So if you think it needs a little bit more time, you can stay a little bit longer. If you think it's enough, you can go into the next gesture.
And then and then that would be juxtaposed against the places that currently have the vertical lines with.
Exactly, exactly. Yes, that's how it works.
Great. No, that makes perfect sense. So you indicate clearly the the coloration of how I use my bow, the sol ponticello, the sol tasto,
Mhm.
canario. Um, one notational question I had for you about
Yes,
some of the places that don't have the vertical lines.
right.
For example, on page one,
Mhm.
um, in the first half of the system, you indicate the top um, marking for tempo,
Yes.
and I was curious. I was curious. Some of it feels like if it's already graphic
Mhm.
and you wanted something, you wanted a gesture to start moving faster, you could just shrink it down. Um,
Yes.
so I'm
Yes.
curious why you made why you have both kinds of instruction there.
Both parameters, both indications, because it has to do with the way the piece is constructed. There is a system of proportions behind each duration of the gestures, and some of them are related. Well, not some, I should say. All of them are related in one way or another. So for instance, I don't know, let's talk about the very first gesture, right, where you have a steady tempo, right, before you have a sudden accelerando change to a faster tempo, right? So the first 10 pulses or 12, again, I'm not counting right now, but so let us suppose that gesture appears again later in the piece, maybe 10 or 15 times, but you won't notice it because the tempo is going to be different, but the proportion is going to be the same. But the way the gesture relates to the whole context is going to make that gesture sound and feel different. It may look very similar on the page, but it doesn't sound at all the same. So that's part of the game. So I'm doing it so you can detect and identify where these gestures are and how they're related, even though me as an audience, I'm not going to be able to, to perceive right away that they are the same gesture, but you know it because you're seeing it there on the score.
I see, I see.
And also I don't want them to sound the same, so that's why I'm juxtaposing these vertical lines, that they look like a pulse
Mhm.
against the top line that indicates accelerando, retardando, sudden changes of tempo. And again, remember, everything is relative. Everything responds, and it's dictated by the context. So the same thing as the register, the middle register is your middle register, then high and up. Same thing with the tempo. So I'm saying, okay, the beginning, every two pulses, every two little squares is equal to 120 beats per minute. And after that, you take a decision, right? Do it faster, do it slower, how much? It's up to you. Just feel it. And the tempo is going to be related to how phrasing is built too.
Uh-huh.
So the tempo, the retardandos, the accelerandos had to do with little climaxes, with little ending of phrases or elisions too. And sometimes I also, indicate the phrasing or the longer sections with the rehearsal letters.
Mhm.
So instead of giving you measure numbers, I'm giving you, this is one section from A to B, right? And B is another section. So every single little sign has to do with, I'm trying to give you part of the message of the meaning of the piece.
Nice. Yeah. Wonderful. Um, in, um, the actual note indications,
Yes.
you um, clarified in the performance notes the open circles being a light, airy flautando.
Yes.
a solid black colored in note
Uh-huh.
would be a normal single note. A dark
Uh-huh.
square would be an overpressure single note.
Yes.
The open box is a two string piano overpressure, and the filled in box is a.
Exactly. And then if it's the darker, the louder.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I noticed many of your particularly over gesture or overpressure gestures. You shade them in as you go.
Yes, yes, yes. So it's not always it's not always loud, or it's not always a sudden change of amplitude. Sometimes you have to do crescendos or diminuendos, like the beginning, for instance. Right.
And you know, along with that technique of overpressure, going from going from something
Nice.
that's like a lot to a little, or vice versa.
Yes. Beautiful.
I find
Nice.
I find for myself at least that I can't always exactly predict the way the actual pitch changes.
Yes.
And is that
That's the idea. That's the idea. That's the nature of the gesture and the way it behaves. That sound is incorporated into the trajectory of the piece.
okay?
Yeah. So you don't worry about that.
Okay.
That's the intention.
Along these lines, in one thing that was different between the sketch and the more finished draft that you sent me
Uh
is
huh.
the appearance of the sort of zigzag lines
Yes.
inside of the
That
overpress.
was new.
Yeah. Tell me about the zigzags.
So exactly what you need, but from time to time you have to break the sound. Pow, 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 and right now it looks too steady, or it looks too, but I'm gonna do something in the final version to make it look less, what is it, more broken, and less.
That's very good.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's not when I see the zigzag, I should not be looking for something that's a steady form
No, no, no. Just break it from time to time. Just little,
like that.
something like that. Yeah, and you can break it into little pieces or longer pieces, or do a combination of both. I mean, just don't think about a continuous sound. I mean, a continuous sound overall, but with little moments.
It's the point being it's not a static block.
No, 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 no. Again, I need to work a little bit more on the notation. I did something similar in an older piece that I was more, what is it, happier with it. And right now I just did it, because of practical reasons.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it needs a little bit more elaboration I need to, what is it? My ruler and my pencil need to be more educated.
You have a greater degree of control over your route than most composers I know. Um, yeah, and I have no idea how you would manage to do something.
Well, no, Leo, I've tried to digitalize. I mean, I've been working like this for, I'm gonna say, for 10 years now. Of course, the piece that wrote 10 years, like, that started to look something like this. It's not exactly the same notation. It has, transformed through the years. Uh, and I have tried to do, of course, I cannot use Finale or Sibelius anymore for nothing like this. And I have tried to use other software, but I don't like how it looks. So the more and more I write like this, I think the easier it is to use, right? Eraser, pencil, and ruler, and that's it.
Well, I have to say from my performer perspective, um, when I'm approaching something where the music is something like your piece here, where the music is very pure, it's very pure music.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Yes.
it's not representative of something. It's abstracted
No.
with a purity to it.
Yes.
Like it's actually very. Um, I like the humanizing aspect of the handwritten. paper on pencil.
Yes.
It's
It tells you a lot, right? It tells you a lot. So yeah. And you just made my day, you just made my day talking about the purity of the idea, because that's exactly, I'm glad that I was able to, to send you that message, because that's exactly how I think, when I'm thinking about, or when I'm writing about me, when I'm writing music, I'm not thinking about anything else other than sounds. So I'm glad I was able to transmit that.
I want to get into that
Yes.
a little bit. A few other just nuts and bolts issues. To start the piece,
Hmm.
you indicate two small square pitches
Uh-huh.
right next to each other, a dyad.
Uh-huh.
They look very close.
Yes.
Um, I'm wondering in the spatial sense, like how, like, because of the way they're offset from each other, they look in traditional notation like they would be a second or something like that.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. They could be a second.
Imagining something like that.
Yeah. 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 But
Yeah.
I imagine, again, in traditional notation, I would do a diet. It doesn't have to be major or minor. Just two notes next to each other, two sounds next to each other, and imagine, if the pulse is 120, so imagine two sixteens.
Uh-huh.
Right? Something like that. Now the little detail is that the first note has a fermata, so it's kind of right. So I mean, if I would be looking at this, if I would be the teacher of this student, I would tell him, hey, why are you having a fermata if what you asked me before? But it has to do again with how the piece is constructed and how I want you to, what is it, to again to relate the different gestures. And the other thing is that it tells you also in which order the elements were added to the score. For instance, the tempo and the fermatas that are related to the tempi, those were the last elements to be, placed on the score. So that's why it looks like this.
And then, so it's a little difficult to tell, but it looks like there's a line that makes the two notes directly contiguous. Okay.
Yes, the square to the more empty
So,
heads.
well, I want. So let's. If I play a sforzando, sul tasto,
Uh-huh.
tenuto, accent, fermata,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
something like. Sorry. Actually, I should announce I'm borrowing a cello at the moment that isn't mine. So some things they don't come out always the way I expect. Uh,
Okay.
let's play a sforzando, sul tasto. Should I change bows for the second?
Yes.
Let's
Yes. Yes. You could. Yes.
so sforzando, and then sorry, forte.
Forte. Uh-huh.
So as the dotted line develops and I get to the flautando airy pressure and move to
Uh-huh.
so uh, I get I come to these three pitches.
Yes.
Uh, how would you like the cluster of three to sound? Since I can't.
So imagine something, like unsteady, like nervous, anxious, nothing. Again, that's something that I have to work on. I'm talking about the notation because it looks steady, but it's not a traditional trill. So to begin with, I'm thinking about three notes and just but not the same, you know, just as I said, non-steady, nervous, anxious. I think that would be more hyperactive, I think.
I see. I see. So it's not um, the three pitches over the duration of the squiggle, the zigzaggy line. It's not. It's not choose three notes that are going to last for that. It is indicate.
Oh, I see what you're saying. In terms of, well, I talked about the the tempo or the speed of it. But talking about three notes, let me see. I'm thinking they have to be the three notes always in this case, because there are other places where they move. Let me see if I find a place. In this case, they're the same three notes. Of course, I mean, if you move, I'm just gonna say 25 cents higher or lower, that would be okay. That actually would be nice. Let me see. Actually, I don't think I did anything. I don't think I moved actually that just during this piece. So never mind, it doesn't move in this piece. So talking about pitches, no, they're the same. They should be the same.
Okay.
They should be the same. They're not moving. I mean, not in this piece, but there are other pieces where I do this kind of gesture and then I do a little bending, or I don't do glissandi when I use this three-tone gesture, usually, at least not who knows in the future, but no, the intention is to have the three same tones.
Okay. So it could be whatever pitches I have in the cluster. It
Yes.
just it needs to have that nervous energy.
Yes. Yes, and if you can do it if you can do it faster, that would be nice. The faster the better. Something like that. Yes, yes, yes.
Then okay, we covered this. We covered this. Harmonics are always indicated with a diamond note head.
Yes.
Um, all right, we covered this. So we talked about this, but just so I have clarity, the gesture at the end of the first system, the overpressure that begins with a black line and goes to an open line.
Yes.
Really indicating. Well, actually, okay. So the beam of it is not shaded.
No, it's white. Yes.
So I should start with a strong overpressure to accent, and then it's a light overpressure to finish.
Yes, yes, that's it. It's like a fortepiano, something like that.
So like
Beautiful. That's it. That's it. And every time, for instance, in this case, you have another right square or rectangle at the end. So and you have a staccato. So you need to re-articulate.
okay, that's
Yes.
actually a question. So it's
That's it. And if there is nothing, you simply just stop.
okay.
There are other places where there is no re-articulation. Let me see, for instance, where is it? Or maybe there is everywhere. No, for instance, page 12. See, there is no fortepiano, but there is no re-articulation at the end, right? So you just attack, boom, and then you change and change and change. And then at the very end, right, after 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the fourth, the fifth, you re-articulate it, right? Which is the beginning and the end again. Or page 14, you're gonna find a couple of other gestures that work like that. Or look at the one in 16, page 16, before N, right? So you have a forte piano with a tremolo, keep it light, and then don't re-articulate, just simply stop at the end.
And would you like, excuse me, would you like for that to be a like it just
Yes, exactly. Just stops, right?
just secco.
Yeah, exactly. If there is no diminuendo, if there is nothing, just keep it. So these little details are very important in order to build, the overall, what is it, mostly the phrasing of the piece.
Super.
Yes.
Could we look at page 2?
Page 2. Okay. Uh-huh.
Um, page 2 opens with these little these little uh, regular notes, sometimes single notes,
Yes.
sometimes dyads, and
Uh-huh.
you have not one but sort of two staccato.
Ew. Yeah, that's my I don't know, that's the solution that I came out with. Basically, what I'm asking you to do is to attack the string, like to off the string.
Okay.
Boom, boom, like some sort of jete, or I mean, or martellato. You have to decide, but a more percussive sound, off the string.
So in the sense, like a single dot wasn't enough. A single dot wasn't short.
No, because a single dot could also mean a staccato, but you could do the staccato on the string too. And I didn't want that sound. I wanted a more percussive, drier sound. So that's why and the other thing that I should tell you, and this has to do with aesthetics maybe, uh, I'm trying to use as many words as possible, not as many, as fewer words as possible, as fewer verbal indications. I'm actually not that happy with my indication of ordinario, sul ponticello, sul tasto. I don't want to see those words notated in a traditional way on my score. And I was gonna do another line, but I thought it was too much, and I just left it like that because I'm indicating the tempo already with these, and I was gonna do the same thing with the ordinario, sul tasto, sul pont indications, but it was too much. It was too much. It looked too crowded. And again, I think those indications are pretty straightforward. So that's why I left them like that. But that's why I'm using two dots. One, to avoid verbal indications, and two, to let you decide what kind of technique you're going to use. I'm telling you what kind of sound I want, dry, off the string, do whatever you feel is right at that moment.
Okay. Uh, that's great. That's
Mm-hmm.
clear. And then um, just after the first section of B that has the verticality,
Yes.
we have a low note, sol ponticello, that's open, and then
And
that,
the three note. Uh-huh.
is that
Yeah.
indicating when the second note of that happens and the cluster of three appears? Is it indicating
Yes.
that it's happening simultaneously with what's below, with the open note head below?
Yes. Yes.
So,
Yes.
for example, I should perhaps choose a note on the C string
Uh-huh.
for what's happening on the bottom
Or
of,
for the support, for the harmonic support of the gesture. Yes.
and then the three note cluster with the irregularity is happening
Uh-huh.
in the G string above.
Yes, on the G string, exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. Yes. Yes. That's it.
That's a
That's
lot
it.
of coordination.
What is it?
You have a lot of faith in my coordination.
Well, even if things are not, how can I say this? Uh, the piece, I imagine every single solution. I imagine every single, what is it? What is what I'm trying to say? Even if you think it's wrong, it's not going to sound wrong. You know what I'm saying? But it's not because it's wrong, because I imagine that option and that possibility. And not instead of rejecting it, I incorporate it into the piece, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
Right?
the beauty in that, if I may may completely subvert your words, is that there is
Uh-huh.
as long as I'm attempting what's there, it's not exactly that there is a wrong.
Exactly. And it's not, it's not also that it doesn't matter what you're doing, but what matters is that whatever you decide to do, it's part of the context of the piece, and you react to it. Um, and I studied with Mario Davidovsky, and I remember starting to change my way of thinking about composing when Mario and I attended a rehearsal of one of his pieces that it was going to be performed. I can't remember which piece was, but I actually remember it had strings. We went to BU, even though the piece was going to be premiere in New York. So anyway, Mario was very excited about the piece, and I remember he suffered a lot in the rehearsal because the piece was not ready yet. I mean, I think it was only the second rehearsal, still a few months to the premiere of the piece. But what I remember after the rehearsal talking about it is that, Mario's music and many music, in order to make the magic happen, uh, a lot of things need to coincide, right? This exact rhythm with this exact note, that this exact speed, and maybe all that has to do with electronic music, right? That a lot of things have to coincide, and it's not a problem, even if it's too complicated. But if it doesn't happen, everything, right? So I remember that night I started thinking about how can I build music? How can I build a piece of music that no matter what happens, still, sounds the way I want it to sound? And that can, no matter what, uh, and not only that every time I listen to the piece, it surprises me.
Uh-huh. That's beautiful. That's
So
beautiful.
that's why, that's why the piece is like that, or the music that I'm writing, it's of right now, currently writing is like that. I don't know what am I going to be writing in a few more years, but
You sort of made it performer proof.
yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, that's
And I'm also, on the other hand, I'm also inviting the performer to be part of the experience. Not only, I don't want a performer that just reads the score, right? But you're going to be surprised. But the more, even though it looks open, and of course, there are some aspects that are open. That's intention. It's an invitation to be part of it. But the more and more you play it, the more you're going to find yourself taking the same set of decisions.
uh-huh.
And then the piece is going to take the shape you give to it. Does that make sense? It's gonna take your own shape.
I,
So, and less is gonna sound. It's gonna, the more you play it, the less open it's gonna sound.
that's really, your story about Davidovsky. Uh,
I'm sure you have other stories too.
this will be pretty fast, but it's just because I know he was your teacher. It reminded me of this experience at Boston University
Uh-huh.
with Lucas Foss.
Yeah.
He conducted the orchestra for a reading, just a 1 day reading of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony,
Uh-huh.
and you, he had, we bless his heart, Maestro Foss was amazing. He was a genius.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
In his prime, he was quite the conductor. His
Uh-huh.
life, he was not. But what was remarkable about this experience is that he got up there on the podium and he gave the first downbeat, and it was sort of just a fist that went down. It was like, go. Nobody knew how to react, and we started playing, and it was a mess. But we didn't stop. Start to finish, we read the entire symphony. sounded horrible. And Lucas, like we were like so fried and frazzled by the end of the symphony, like trying to figure out how do we get on the same page as everybody else. And he closed this and he said, "Perfect." And he walked.
Oh.
There's still like 15 more minutes of rehearsal. It was, but it was as if it was as if uh, you know the struggle to put forth something that was on the page,
Yeah.
like that was the essence of what needed to.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
almost incidental what the final outcome was.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think it makes sense, and it's related to what we're talking about, because at the end, I think for me, it's much more important what you're saying, the essence, the effort, the energy, the spirit of the music, more than the notes and the rhythms. I've been thinking a lot about this, and there are composers, whose music, no matter what you do, even if you play wrong notes, they sound okay. And I'm not saying that you don't detect the wrong notes. I'm saying that there is something bigger and much more important than the note and the rhythm. For instance, one of those, I don't know if you agree with me, you may disagree with me, but one of those composers I think is Debussy, right? I mean, his music is so noble, so kind, so elegant and so refined that even if you don't do a great job, you know, the music tells and says something. That's what I'm looking for. I'm not saying that is not that everything is what is it is welcome, or that there are no such a thing as mistakes. No, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that if we're not going to record the piece, right? I mean, if it's going to be a live performance, I rather have the spirit, the essence, the energy, than the cold pulses and the notes and the rhythms that don't say anything to me.
I see. So actually, could I just ask you then,
Yes.
just to say a few words um, about the genesis of the piece? Because
Mhm.
um, for this unaccompanied project that for which um, you are one of the esteemed composers writing, uh, I, I very much wanted a mix of not only sort of social viewpoints and personal histories, but composition styles. I wanted to
Mhm.
see how different people would engage with the project and the question.
Mhm.
The question that I put to everybody was some variation for them, however you want to, how much or little you want to answer. But what does your Americanness sound like? What is your
Mhm.
um, everyone is a composer who is either an immigrant or a first generation, a child of immigrants, um, and they all have engaged with our society in their own way, and there are
Mhm.
differences, but there's also similarities. And yours, I wanted to know, for somebody who wasn't going to sit down and write folk songs from their homeland. Uh, Not that that's not a valid answer to the question. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
if you could just say a little bit about um, how this piece sort of engages.
Mhm. Mhm. It's not an easy question to answer. There are a lot of implications. There are a lot of, actually, maybe aspects that I have no words for that. And I'm looking at your project or our project, or at your question from different perspectives, from, as you say, the American in me and also the Mexican in me. Um, for instance, I have had people that have approached me because since I'm Mexican, they think I write Mexican music, whatever Mexican music means to them. And, and then I come up with something like this. And they're like, oh, okay. So, where is Mexico in this case? And I'm like, well, it's right in front of you. It's the score is my music and it's me. My music is Mexican because I'm Mexican and I cannot be more Mexican than what I am, right? And same thing with being American and being a little bit of both and taking the best of both cultures and both languages and both experiences. I have a son who was born in Boston, right, in the United States, and I'm learning a lot from him, and I'm learning that he has to take the best, as I said, of both cultures, and he has to understand both worlds. And without these experiences, I wouldn't be the person that I am nowadays. I came to this country 20 years ago. You were one of the first musicians, people that I interacted with when I got here. Started my PhD. We had the opportunity, maybe if not to work on a piece, to interact, right? And so you're part of that evolution and that transformation, for instance, and actually you reminded me of that place, that first place that I touched, when I came to this country. And since our experiences, our knowledge, our the people that we meet, is build our personalities and our everyday lives, then in music is a reflection or an extension of what I do, then that's it. My music wouldn't sound like this if I wouldn't have come to this country 20 years ago. I'm not saying it would be better or worse. I'm just saying it's different. Maybe I'm not the same person. I'm sure I'm not the same person. I mean, in essence, I'm the same person. Like maybe in essence, my music is the same music that I used to compose when I was a 17-year-old composition student, because the energy, the things that I was looking for, they are still here. I think the main difference is that I have found the answers and I have found a more clear way of transmitting them, and more personal too. But I think the essence is the same. So in essence, I'm the same person, but the solutions have come from everything I have learned and being in this country and being part of America. And I think I can say at this point that I'm half and half, right? Because I have spent half of my life in this country. And maybe in a few more years, I have spent more years in this country than in the country that I was born. So I'm proud of being, bicultural, bilingual, and to have a son that was born in this country. And I hope everything is I'm trying to say all this, in this piece, with a little touch of nostalgic too. And there are things that this piece is doing that other pieces that I have written for strings also didn't do. I actually like to write a lot for strings. I have a couple of pieces for that have the option to be played by 1, 2, or 3 strings, and I have a couple of string quartets. I mean, I have older music for strings that it's not part of my catalog anymore. But Leo, this piece is doing something. And now that I talk about nostalgic, and if you don't mind, I would like you to try a section. Can we do that? Because it's related to what I just said. For instance, page 9. Page 9, or maybe we can try. Oh yeah, 9 will be fine.
Okay.
So yeah, you see this first half of the page, right? You basically have a melody, right? That you have to play a melody, right? Go up and down. I'm not giving you the tones. I'm not giving you specific rhythms, but I'm giving you proportions, and I'm giving you pitch areas. And in this piece, this is new in my music. These kind of melodies that go up and down. I'm trying to find a way to do my own melodies. So as you can see in this case, you have ordinario with a normal note head, and they are tied, but instead of using a slur, I'm using a continuous line that indicates just keep going, just change the note, and you see the diminuendos. And I can't remember if I added these to the instructions, but I'm telling you right now, every time you see this phrase, do it as expressivo as possible, as you would do with any other romantic piece.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Totally does. Yeah. Do you want me to?
Yeah. Then can you try? Don't think too much about it. Just do it. Nice. That's it. That's it. Yeah, it works. It works. What would happen if you play it again?
Let's see. I'm sure it won't be the same.
Exactly. That's the idea. Something like that. Something like that. Okay. And the more you play it again, the more, what is it, relaxed should sound, the less rushed, right? Right now, I think you're thinking about the notes, right? That's your concern.
When I find something spatial, there's like it's like this interesting space right between improvising, where I have freedom to do what I would do, and
Yeah.
sort of interpreting, like at the same time, where I don't have a choice of it's I don't have a broad palette of my choices to choose from. Exactly, I'm choosing from somebody else's choices.
Yes, yes. So I told you, I told you it's in that sense. I think the way I'm proposing the material is a little bit Machiavellian, because you think you have more options than the ones you have. You think, oh, I can do whatever I want. No, 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 no. And then you start playing it, and you're like, okay, no, 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 no. The options are not very limited, but they're not as many as I thought. Right? I have to do this. I have to go higher. I have to go lower. This is shorter. This is longer. I have to wait. Right? I have to rush. So yeah, but it sounds good. It sounds great.
It's interesting. It's very much as you were speaking about your personal journey. You used some of the same language to say, you know, I am who I am. The music is what it is. I had choices, and I found answers to some of them. It's not
Yes.
answers sort of narrow a little bit what you do, but at its heart, it's pure.
Yes.
You're the same Mexican you were when you were a 17-year-old student.
Yeah.
You're also the same American who's made choices
Yes.
to
Exactly.
Boston, and
Exactly.
you
And
know.
I cannot be different, and I cannot be more or less. And that's another interesting part, because I was saying, not anymore, I think, because but in the past, as I said, musicians were expecting me to include, I don't know, maracas, in my music, or three against two rhythms, and I'm like, yeah, no, oh, but I thought, yes, I'm from Mexico, yes, but right? Yes, I am Mexican, but I don't need I don't need a flag, that says, this is who I am. No, I, I don't need to say it, because that's who I am, right?
Beautiful. Jose Luis, thank you so much for this piece. Thank you so much for taking this time to break some of it down with me and talk about it. And I'm really looking forward to digging in further with you as we go.
No, thank you, Leo, for inviting me to be part of this project. I'm really thrilled to have the opportunity to work with you after so many years. We have known each other for so many years, and we're finally working together. So I'm thrilled and really looking forward to not only to the premiere of the piece, but to see what happens after it too.
Well, thank you so much. It's beautiful to see you. I can't wait to be in person with you eventually. We're getting
Of course, of course.
starting to happen. So thank you again, and we'll do this again.
All right.